radioschooling.com.
Buenos días. Vamos a dar comienzo a la mesa redonda que lleva por título Equidad, Diversidad y Homeschooling. Bueno, primero de todo me voy a presentar para justificar el uso de la palabra. Yo soy Javier Tourón, bueno, lo dice el programa por otra parte. Soy catedrático de Métodos de Investigación y Diagnóstico en Educación, que suena muy raro, pero no es nada peligroso. Aquí en el Departamento de Educación en la Universidad, donde llevo algunos años, algo más de 30. Y bueno, primero agradecer a los organizadores del Congreso que me hayan invitado a moderar esta mesa redonda con gente tan interesante. Y lo segundo es que antes de presentarlos quisiera decir algunas cosas que a mí el título me sugiere, porque enlazan más con cosas que yo manejo y trabajo, ¿no? Entonces, lo que quiero hacer es, ya que no tengo otro papel aquí más que regular el tráfico, por lo menos quiero decir algo que a mí personalmente me deje tranquilo respecto a esto de la equidad y la diversidad y del homeschooling sé menos. Bueno, es que estamos en un momento en el que cuando se habla de igualdad y se habla de equidad, me vienen inmediatamente a la cabeza los informes PISA, que probablemente a ustedes les resultan familiares también, que es este gran estudio que se hace cada 3 años sobre diversas materias en muchos países de Europa, de la OCDE y de fuera de Europa también, que son países asociados. Y es muy curioso ver cómo hay un apartado que se refiere precisamente a la equidad. Pero también es curioso que la equidad se relaciona con la dispersión de los resultados y con una cosa que en estadística se llama la varianza o la desviación típica. Entonces se dice, España tiene una media de los resultados de la materia que sea, no voy a entrar en detalles porque quienes tienen que hablar son ellos, pues tiene una media, digamos, bien, razonable, como la de los países de nuestro entorno, que es una expresión muy socorrida que no significa absolutamente nada, o significa algo bastante negativo. Pero, sin embargo, es un sistema muy equitativo, porque hay poca varianza en los resultados. Es decir, estamos mal, pero todos. Eso es lo que quiere decir. Segundo, se está confundiendo la equidad, que es un concepto moral, con la desviación típica, que es un concepto estadístico moralmente neutro. Tengan que ver. Claro, y como hay una obsesión en los sistemas educativos por promover la igualdad, uno se pregunta, ¿de qué igualdad hablamos? Porque ya decía Aristóteles que es tan injusto tratar desigualmente a los iguales como tratar igualmente a los desiguales. Por lo tanto, hay que buscar alguna forma de conciliar la igualdad con la diversidad, la igualdad con la equidad, porque la equidad supone dar a cada uno lo que necesita. Claro, como ven, esto se relaciona mucho con el homeschooling y con la escuela que conocemos y con lo que alguno de los ponentes aquí dirá. Entonces, si uno, que simplemente es ir a las fuentes. Yo creo que la gente lee poco o lo que leen no lo entienden, porque en el siglo XIX John Stuart Mill hablaba de la igualdad ex ante y la igualdad ex post. La igualdad ex ante coincide o coincidiría con la igualdad de oportunidades, es decir, todas las personas deben tener igualdad de oportunidades porque todos somos ciudadanos con los mismos derechos. Pero claro, uno al ver algunos comentarios que se observan en los informes oficiales y sobre todo los que proceden de los ministerios y de las esferas políticas, pues uno tiene la sensación de que Claro, nadie duda de que el sistema educativo es un sistema de intervención social, por eso todo el mundo quiere echarle el guante, si me permiten la vulgaridad de la expresión, al sistema educativo. Porque es un mecanismo para algunos de nacionalización de las conciencias, ¿no? Entonces, claro, la igualdad ex post, que es yo creo, la obsesión igualitarista lo que significa es que, lo que apunta es, decía Stuart Mill, hacia el final, el fracaso de cualquier tipo de desarrollo social, porque eso sería equiparado a la igualdad de resultados. Bueno, ¿dónde está entonces la diversidad en un sistema donde lo que se está vendiendo como gran valor es la homogeneidad de los resultados, es la igualdad de los resultados? Pues fíjense ustedes, y les voy a dar solo este dato y ya voy a terminar porque me estoy enrollando. Si nosotros observamos un país como Finlandia, estamos hablando de la instrucción, no me meto en otras cosas. Si nosotros pensamos, decimos, bueno, ustedes saben, PISA establece una escala de rendimiento que tiene 6 niveles, bueno, en algunas materias 5, pero generalmente 6. De tal manera, los niveles más bajos indican peor rendimiento, los niveles más altos, más competencia. Entonces decimos, bueno, vamos a ver, ¿cuántos alumnos tenemos en PISA en los niveles 5 y 6, que son los más altos, en Finlandia? Pues alrededor, podría matizarlo, pero no hace falta, alrededor del 25%. Es decir, la cuarta parte de su población está en los niveles 5 y 6. En España, 4%. Inglaterra, 10%. Aunque ellos tienen una justificación para esto que, bueno, entonces uno podría decir, bueno, ¿será que es que nuestro sistema educativo realmente pone todas sus energías en los pobres, en los desvalidos, en las personas que tienen realmente dificultades, y no nos preocupamos tanto de potenciar las capacidades de los que deberían estar allá arriba, etcétera? Bueno, ¿cuántos hay en esta situación en Finlandia? 6%. ¿Cuántos hay en España? 25%. Luego aquí pasa algo. Es decir, lo que se observa es que el sistema educativo español, otros también, tienen una capacidad escasa de bombear alumnos a los niveles superiores de rendimiento, lo cual quiere decir que aquí los más perjudicados son sobre todo los más capaces, pero eso no significa que solo hay que atender este tipo de diversidad, sino cualquier otro tipo de diversidad. Por lo tanto, como ven, muchas veces incluso los informes educativos, que son tan técnicos, están bastante entreverados de carga ideológica y no siempre de interpretaciones que se ajustan a los datos, ¿no? Por tanto, a mí me parece que el tema que hoy se va a abordar aquí, en esta segunda parte de la mañana, es extraordinariamente interesante. Y, la cuestión es, que yo me planteaba, pensando en esta presentación, es si el homeschooling es la respuesta a esta falta de atención a la diversidad en el sistema educativo, que se puede demostrar de muchas maneras, o a esta obsesión por la igualdad en los resultados, no en las oportunidades. O si esto se puede combinar con la escuela, de alguna forma, o si es posible una escuela mejor. Y esto me lleva ya directamente al título de la primera intervención. Ahora presentaré a la profesora, que dice si podemos, lo que dice ahí en el título, si podemos realmente encajar estacas redondas en agujeros cuadrados. Es un título very British title, isn't it? Bueno, esto es lo que quiere decir, o sea, porque pegs también son pinzas de la ropa, pero yo le dije, tú no te refieres a pinzas de la ropa, ¿verdad? No, son estacas, ¿verdad? Una estaca redonda, ¿cómo se mete una estaca redonda en un agujero cuadrado? Y a mí se me ocurrió una respuesta, digo, sí, si podemos inscribir el círculo en el cuadrado. Pero eso quiere decir entonces que si la circunferencia era grande, si el niño era muy capaz, probablemente lo que tenemos que hacer es incapacitarlo suficientemente para que entre dentro del cuadrado, que ese es uno de los dramas de lo que la escuela hace con los alumnos. Bueno, entonces la primera persona que va a intervenir, hablarán como 25 minutos aproximadamente, y luego el resto del tiempo pues tendremos una sesión de discusión, preguntas, etcétera, que serán al final. La profesora Johana Raffan fue fundadora y directora como yo creo que lo dice el programa, de NACE, que es una National Association for Able Children. Los ingleses prefieren hablar de able, de highly able, y no se utiliza el término gifted, ¿no? Bueno, su background es como profesora de escuela primaria, pero fue también directora de escuela por lo menos 25 años, y desde los años 90, después de que se organiza esta agencia, que es probablemente la agencia de profesores más grande de Inglaterra, trabajan sobre todo en Inglaterra y Gales, pues trabajan con 8.000 escuelas y miles de profesores, ¿no? Entonces lo que tratan es de ayudar a la escuela a cambiar su mentalidad para, de alguna manera, atender a la diversidad o atender a las personas con más capacidad. Bien, conozco a la profesora Raffan desde hace mucho tiempo, desde el año 94, yes. Y desde entonces, bueno, ya le conté antes lo que iba a decir de ella, que dudamos si hacerlo en inglés o qué, pero en inglés ya va a hablar ella. Bueno, y entonces, bueno, hemos trabajado durante todos estos años porque ella está muy implicada. Ella está implicada en cualquier conferencia importante que se celebre en Europa o que se celebre en cualquier otra parte del mundo sobre la problemática de los alumnos de alta capacidad. Ella está ahí, tiene un insight, es decir, una introspección sobre los problemas y una visión muy aguda sobre los problemas de la escuela, particularmente en su país, ¿no? Por tanto, yo me callo ya, que he hablado demasiado, y le cedo la palabra a la profesora Raffan. The floor is for you.
The floor is for me.
Let me help you with this. There.
That's it.
So, here you have this arrow
Yes.
for you to change.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, good. I'm very sorry. I speak no Spanish at all. So I hope what he said about me was nice. I have to confess before I start that I am honestly not a fan of homeschooling. So I put my hands up. I think that there are some cases where yes, maybe it is the answer, but I am a firm believer that we need to change the school system and that it can be done, that we can change the school system. We have a system universally around the world that says one size fits all. And it is this box, this school, and if you are going to go to it, then you must do what is in this box. I think that is ridiculous. I do not think that that is the way we should educate children. And I want to share with you my thoughts on how I think we can change it. And I do it from a position of having done it. So this is not theory. This is telling you how it can be done, and I can give you examples of doing it. I did it in my own school when I went to my third headship in 1979. And over the next 19 years, I had a school where we adjusted the lessons, the timetable, to meet the needs of individually very, very bright children. So it can be done. In the last 8 years, working with NACE, we have devised a system of guidance to schools on how to change. And we have worked with 8,000 schools in England and 3,000 schools in Wales. And there is a huge change taking place. There is a huge demand on the schools to do that. There is an even bigger demand on the teachers to change. But it's a change of mindset. It's a change of the way they think and the way they work. It is not a change of you have to do more. Because that, no. I wouldn't dream of saying to any teacher, do more. But you can change the way you work, and I'm going to talk about that. For me, the school for the gifted, I'll use all sorts of words in the next 20 minutes to describe these pupils. Gifted, I think, is probably my least favourite. And it's one of the reasons why in England we talk about able, because we think that the word gifted gives people the wrong message. We feel that to say that somebody is gifted, people think immediately of Einstein, Picasso, Leonardo. And we're not thinking of those. We're thinking of the next tier down, because those are the ones that we see on a day-to-day basis, which is why we've tended in United Kingdom to use the word able, high attainment, high ability, rather than the word gifted. But as I say, I will interchange with them. For me, this cartoon is exactly what schools should be about. They should be places where pupils can experiment, where they can break the rules because they don't read what's written, where there is a sense of humour, and where they can think outside that school box. How early can we tell that this child is more able or highly talented? You can certainly do it from the time they're sitting on their potty, with some of them. I have a colleague in England called Joan Freeman, who has probably done the longest longitudinal study into gifted children in the world. She has studied a group of 210 children over the last 40 years. And at the moment she's doing a lot of work in interviewing young gifted children. She interviews them from the age of 2. Quite shocked she has been by how early some of these children show their facilities and their capabilities. And I want to tell you about one of them. His name is Adam, and his parents rang Joan when he was 2.5 and said, "We think he's very bright and we're really not quite sure what we should be doing. So we don't necessarily want him tested, but we want some advice and guidance." And so Joan saw Adam. She did test him. He has an IQ of 170. He is mathematically very, very bright, and linguistically he's very bright. By the age of 3.5, he devised his own language for his bedroom. So if you visit his bedroom, you have to talk his language. On the wall, he has a map of the island on which he lives, and it's all there in place. It has roads and railways and mountains and towns and ports, everything. And it is a complete language, sufficient for him to correspond in. At 4, Joan Freeman advised them that because he had such good mathematical ability, he ought to learn to play a musical instrument. And so he's learning to play the piano. And then at 4.5, they needed to be looking at school for him, because in England we start school in the year that you are 5. So we have formal schooling from a very, very young age. And so they looked for a school in the London area and eventually chose one, and they went to visit, and I think probably within half an hour of them leaving, the school was on the telephone to me saying, "We've got this child, what are we going to do?" So we had a meeting between the parents, Adam, the teacher, the class assistant, and myself. And for the first half hour, we had a discussion about Adam. Adam talked about himself and told me all about himself. And in the middle of this discussion, he suddenly said to me, "Do you know I play the piano?" So I said, "Yes, I heard you play the piano." He said, "Well, do you know, I played a piece of music last night, and it had 87 notes, and 13 of them were B flat." So I said, "Oh, so what sort of music was it?" And so we had a discussion about the music and what it was like, and did he know the name of the composer and the name of the piece and so on. And then at the end of the half hour, Adam went and joined the class that he was going to be in September. And his mother said to me, before we start and discuss how the school is going to support him, I need to tell you that that is a piece of music that he played last night for the first time. And at the end of playing it, he said to me, do you know, Mummy, there are 87 notes in this piece of music, and 13 of them are B-flat. Now, this school has a huge job on its hands to provide a curriculum that is going to educate Adam at the level he needs. And they're doing a superb job. He does all his lessons he's now 5.5, so he does all the lessons with the 5.5-year-old class, apart from his mathematics and his language work. And that is done, language work is done with pupils at the top end of the school. His mathematical ability, we've linked him to a local university, and he has communication with a professor from the university once a month, where they discuss mathematics. His stature in the school is considerable because the school runs what they call a maths Olympiad, and the headmaster puts on his office door every Monday morning a mathematical problem. Sometimes it's straightforward maths, and sometimes it's a little quirky maths. And the pupils put in their answers. And Adam, of course, wins hands down every week and has been last year's Math Olympiad champion for the school. But in the playground, all the kids want to talk to him because they want to know, how did he get the answer? How many different answers could he find? So his status in the school is good. He feels accepted and wanted and needed. Adam's parents have done a good job, but for many others, this is the type of scenario that they live with. I've got piano lessons today, Spanish tutorial on weeknights, soccer and dance on Saturdays. Let's pencil each other in for milk and cookies next Thursday. God, I hope the pressure lets up when we go to kindergarten. And that's one of the problems, isn't it? You have a very bright child. We feel that their brain needs to be fed all the time, and that for many able pupils, that's the type of life that they lead. We need to remember that they are not brains on legs, that they need a childhood. They need time to, what I call, chill out. It's a little like, apart from being here for 2 days, I'm actually on a week's holiday. Now, my reading ability and my mental capacity should say to me that I need to take with me Tolstoy or Shakespeare to read, but I don't. I've got a very good Len Deighton thriller in my case, because I want to read at a level that is just for pleasure and enjoyment. And we need to remember that these pupils need that pleasure and enjoyment, because many of them find that school is like captivity and that they don't learn very well in that box, in that captivity, and that the school thinks, the same as the previous cartoon, that they need to be fed all the time. They need to have the brain topped up. And so their view is, I don't learn well in captivity. Joan Freeman's latest piece of research, her fourth time of interviewing these 210 children. So she started 40 years ago and is now looking at them 40 years on. So they are all now 37, 38, 47, 48, 49. And what she's done for this final book is she's just chosen 20 of the 210 and looked at them retrospectively as well as where they are today. And it's fascinating because of those 20, the number of them that talk about feeling that school was slightly like going and doing service. You know, they went and they had to get through from 9 till 4, and then they went home to think. But they also said that they wouldn't have missed it. And I'll come back to why they wouldn't have missed it in a minute, because I think that social and emotional side of the needs of able pupils is almost more important than their education side. Because if that's not right, education doesn't follow. I just wanted to remind you of the different types of able pupils that there are, and that we should not be just thinking of academia. There are many able pupils who are good footballers, good artists, good musicians, good leaders, good creative thinkers, good socialites, the people that make the world go round. And sometimes I think we get a bit narrow in our view of a gifted child as being just the academic side of life. We need to look at all of these. We also need to look, I was talking to somebody at coffee, I don't think they're in the audience actually. Yes? No, somebody who works in special education and, no, she's not here. There was a lady who was talking, yes she is, she was talking about working with home school education and hospitals. Well, you're going to find as many gifted children there as anywhere else. Because, you know, just because you're ill doesn't mean that you're not a very bright person. Just because you have dyslexia doesn't mean that you're not a very bright person. Dyscalculia, you're a bright person. Dyspraxia, you could be a bright person. Cerebral palsy, you could still be a bright person. Double exceptionality. And we need to remember that those pupils also need something special, the same as these do. Yes? Can you read that from the Mac? Would the gifted children carry on quietly with the chapter on propositional calculus? You know, I find it very interesting, and I said this to the group I was working with yesterday, that actually, as a society, we are very happy to identify our good sports people, our good footballers. And in schools, we're very happy to identify them, because not only do we identify them, but then we put them in a special uniform so that they are very identifiable. Right? And yet, if we said we wish to do the same with our best mathematicians, people get a bit, not sure about that. And we should put our best mathematicians or our best geographers or our best historians on the same level as the David Beckhams of this world. And that's where schools need to change. And then the group of bright children that I think are the most exciting to have in a classroom, but as I said in my abstract, they're the children who illuminate my life but ruin my lessons. Those are the pupils that see what others see but don't think what others think, and who have flights of thought that are totally different from everybody else in the classroom and from the teacher. And that's part of the nub of the change that needs to take place. Teachers need to accept that some pupils will not think along the tram lines that everybody else does, and that they will want to spend their time abseiling, having thoughts that are way outside the box, and do it in a different way. And I'll explain how I think we should do it in just a minute. But these are for me, these are the joys of teaching these pupils in a classroom. They make my life really enjoyable as a teacher. But for many teachers, I appreciate that they see them as a threat. So if I've got the potential and I'm going to be here, what now? You've identified my potential, you've identified that I am very good at something. And that is something else that I think we need to be aware of when working in schools. We do it with children who have behavioural problems. If you have a child who has a behavioural problem, we will say to them, I don't like your behaviour. I think you should do this or that. We don't say to them, I don't like you. What you don't like about them is the way they behave. And I think we should make that same difference with our gifted children. You are not a gifted child, you are a gifted mathematician or a gifted musician. And that subtle difference, I think, is extremely important in the way we talk to children and for their potential. So we need to create a school where they can learn, and we need to create conditions under which they can learn. So, well, maybe we don't need to provide them with the bowls of fruit and the music, but we do need to create an environment in which they can learn and learn at their pace and in their way. Why do they always have to sit at desks? Why do they always have to write down, either with pen and paper or computer, all that they have learnt? Isn't internalising it sufficient for a lot of that information? We're told that most pupils from the age of 5 to 18 write sufficient words to fill a Tolstoy novel. All right? But I don't think at the end of 18 they are that literate for everybody. So we need to be looking at ways of working with these pupils in different ways. So what do we start with? Well, we need to start with the teacher, and the teacher needs to be looking at educating pupils in a different way. We need to make sure as teachers that we spend time talking to pupils. I talked yesterday about a piece of research in Australia that has been done by somebody called Vilma Weil, and she has talked to pupils about the type of teacher they prefer. Being very gifted children, what sort of teacher, what needs do they have? And they say the traditional things that you would expect. They want teachers who are full of knowledge. They want a teacher who will go the extra half mile with them. They want a teacher who makes learning fun. They want teachers who are charismatic. And if they have to choose between a teacher who is full of knowledge and a teacher who is charismatic, they want the charismatic teacher because they know where to find the knowledge. They want the charismatic person to carry them further. But the last thing on the list, and I think the most important, they want teachers who talk to them with their eyes. And this is something that I think is one of the things that needs to change in the teaching profession as a whole, and how teachers need to change in a classroom to deal with these pupils. You need to find time to talk to these pupils with your eyes. I remember talking to a 7-year-old in a classroom who very seriously informed me that I actually only put my hand up every third question now because I never get asked. Right? So we need to be talking to these pupils and engaging them. So looking at what they know already is the important thing. We need to find out what they know and take it on from there. Again, teachers are not good at this. We start a school year with a group of pupils in front of us and think that everybody is at the same starting block. They're not. And so prior knowledge is the point at which teachers need to start curriculum planning. at looking at where have they got to, what do they know already, and how can I take them on from there. That's the first thing teachers need to do. The second mind change that needs to happen with teachers, and I can take you to many, many schools now where this has happened, is that the curriculum planning itself needs to change. On the whole, most teachers plan for what I call the middleman. We plan our lessons for the average pupil, and we simplify it for some pupils, and we make it only slightly more difficult for the more able. The mind change needs to come by teachers starting to plan with what am I going to do for the able pupils in my classroom, and starting with them and unpicking it for the rest. Right? Now, that's not difficult to do, but it does mean you have to change the way you think. The teachers that I work with and I plan like that tell me that actually teaching's more fun for them. It's more challenging for them because their thought processes are up there instead of here. We also find that the schools that work like this raise standards for the rest. Everything goes up because the pupils that are here want to do what they're doing, and these want to do what they're doing, and sometimes these want to do what they're doing. They quantum leap. So it isn't revolutionary, and it isn't a massive change in the way we work, but it's a change of mindset. It's a change of thought processing. And there is huge evidence to prove that the schools that address the needs of their more able pupils raise standards for all the rest, because gifted education for gifted pupils is gifted education for all, and is right for all, and we need to be looking at how we do that.
Less than 10 minutes.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. I said I'd come and talk to you about their social and emotional problems. I think this is hugely important because for many able pupils, this is the biggest issue. Their emotional stature and their ability to talk and converse with their peers. Our able pupils are the future of any country. They are going to be your future engineers, scientists, inventors, etc. And unless they are emotionally and socially well adjusted, they'll never contribute to society as a whole, because their thought processes will be such that they can't communicate with them. And that's one of the arguments I have against homeschooling, because they need to be with groups of other pupils, not just like minds, but other pupils, where they learn to communicate what their thought processes are. They need to communicate with mere mortals like me, and to be able to explain how they've thought about it, what they've thought, and how it's going to function. I accept that many of them find that difficult, because they think on a line that isn't a bit like the way I think. And I know when I talk to them that they say, we find it frustrating because there are very few pupils in my class that think like I do. Fine. But an explanation of, well, just tell me, what was, in 2 words, what was the thing that took you from A to Z? Don't give me a full explanation, just tell me. And if they get used to doing that, then it helps them for their social life eventually. Because many of them don't have social lives. I don't know whether you know or remember a young lass that we had in England called Ruth Lawrence. Ruth Lawrence was a mathematician who went to Oxford at 14 Because she was a minor, she had to go with Dad. So Dad went everywhere with her. The only place that he didn't go was the Oxford Union. They refused to let him in. But she had her first degree at 16 and her PhD by 19. Mathematically, she is just brilliant. She's now Professor for Mathematics at Jerusalem University. But conversation with Ruth was extraordinarily difficult. I sat next to her at a social dinner on 2 occasions, and her conversation, if it wasn't about mathematics, was non-existent. She'd never read a book, unless it was mathematics. She'd never watched television. She'd never been to see a film. Her total life evolved around mathematics. And I thought, what a pity, because what more could she have offered in this world if she'd been slightly more rounded, slightly more experienced. I've been working with James in Cardiff. He's in a secondary school. He's now 15, but he is a mathematical wizard. And the school has coped with him. He does everything with his 15-year-old class, apart from his mathematics. And for his mathematics, he goes twice a week to the university. And last summer, he got his BSc, his Bachelor of Science, in mathematics. And he's now doing his master's. He got a first-class honours degree and was the top student of the year. But the school has coped with him. So he is in mainstream schooling, but going out to have his needs met in the same way as Adam. Charlotte, that I've been working with, is an artist. She is absolutely fantastic and has been since about the age of 3. She's now 10, and we've put her in touch with the secondary school. We haven't gone as far as university yet. At the moment, she's working with our top students who are 17, 18 in the local secondary school. And once a week, one of those students comes down to the primary school and does art lessons with Charlotte. So her needs, other needs are catered for in the school, but her artistic needs are catered for elsewhere. The most difficult aspect, I think, to deal with for these pupils is their spiritual aspect. Because for many of these very able pupils, they have a very heightened awareness of right and wrong, and social justice, and social needs, and the environment. And that is difficult for schools to cater for. It's difficult for parents to live with as well. For these children, these are the group of pupils who never learn that life is actually grey. Yes? They live through, even into adulthood, with a view that life is black or white, and there's not a lot in the middle. So they are a difficult group to cater for. And that's one of the things that schools struggle with more than anything else. They deal with their social aspect, they deal with their academic aspects, but the spiritual need of the child can be more difficult to work with in schools. So I'm saying to you is that if you have a pupil that is prepared to admit that I am gifted, and they have been identified as being gifted, then what's in it for them? And I think that schools need desperately to change in the way they work and the way they approach these pupils, and that it can be done. It is achievable. Thank you very much.